So Iain Duncan Smith, Conservative MP, of course, former Conservative Party leader and former Work and Pensions Secretary for 6 years under David Cameron. Thank you so much for joining us, Sir Iain.
Morning.
Right, let's get...
Are we afternoon?
Oh, no, not yet. Good late night in the Duncan Smith household, by the sounds of it. Let's talk about what is going on with these welfare reforms. Keir Starmer's planned these welfare reforms, which were, I think a lot of us saying they didn't go very far in the first place, tackling universal credit and PIP payments under disability benefit. And now we've had a massive climb down, a massive concession that any changes will only affect new claimants, not old claimants. We've still got, though, out of the 126 Labour MPs who said they would rebel against this vote in the Commons tonight, we reckon some 40 or 50 who could vote against or abstain. Are you on the side of the rebels or on the side of the government on this?
Well, in a way, I'm on neither side, really, because, first of all, the government produced a paper which was obviously produced by the Treasury. I went through this and I resigned back at the end of my time at the DWP simply because they were trying to top-slice a benefit. It never works if you top-slice it.
What does that mean?
Well, they've taken the entry-level qualifications to get onto the benefit. It's a complex benefit, but and they've just simply reduced them by an X amount. So in other words, they've taken it away. The problem is that by doing it like that, two things happen. The first is those who really, really genuinely need those benefits, and for example, 30 or 40% of anyone with serious cardiovascular problems will be taken out of that list. So you hit quite a lot of people who are very genuinely on the benefit.
Yeah.
What you don't do is you don't deal with the new entries, and particularly new entries in the mental health area where you need to target that. The second bit is they won't save much money because immediately they get refused, they will go to tribunal. And the tribunals, in the majority of cases, overturn that kind of decision and grant the award.
Yeah.
So they'll make even less than they think had they stayed with the original one. Now they've got rid of that and it's on entry. The trouble is, on entry right now, it may stop for a while a certain group of people, but again, they'll find a way through. What you need to do is what we recommended at the Centre for Social Justice, was to go on to those areas. The biggest area of people coming on is mental health. Yeah. And the biggest area of mental health that is claiming is depression and anxiety. Now, these two are incredibly treatable conditions. You don't need to have them on a benefit. What they need is some kind of stabilizing support work that gets them back to work. Work is a health treatment for people like that.
Yes.
They're not going anywhere near that. And of course, that's where you will make the majority of your savings, because the growth has come from mental health massively from depression.
Well, this is it. We've had this extraordinary explosion in the cost of the health and disability benefits in this country, around 40 billion quid in 2019. And you did a lot on the universal credit when you were Work and Pensions Secretary to try and tackle some of these issues. It's set to rise to £100 billion by 2030, and the explosion has been since lockdown. And a lot of people say, well, a lot of people were very damaged by lockdown and what issues since. But again, we look at other countries who had similar experiences of lockdown, the same youth affected, and they've not seen this massive growth. And as you say, again, we've gone from, let's face it, benefits, the people who were claiming benefits, who a lot of us were questioning, it used to be backache, then it was stress, now it's depression and anxiety, but it's particularly younger people. This isn't even a good thing for the people who were claiming it, let alone for the taxpayers forced to pay it.
No, as one of the GPs that we looked at and spoke to said to us, we have medicalised normal life. Yeah. But now it's not possible to have a difficult time. You have a mental health issue. I'm generalising, but there is a real issue on this.
But it undermines the people who genuinely do have severe depression, severe anxiety, and who really do need that targeted help. But if everybody has got it, then nobody ends up getting treated.
Well, the problem is that when I left this, and just before 2019, we had the lowest level of workless households since records began. So the reforms and changes, even though some hated the idea, actually started getting more people back to work, fewer people getting on the benefits. What actually happened during COVID was they just got rid of all the checks, all the conditionality. It just ballooned. So immediately then, and the other bit I made the point was, we've now conditioned a new group in society to become in favour of claiming. You know, groups that would never have claimed for anything particularly now think that claiming is normal, which is what happened during COVID. Yeah. So, you know, for the furlough scheme, all these new schemes where they chuck money at everybody, vast sums, which I just kept saying was ridiculous. You know, you stay on UC. So all of those are the problems. Deal with that end of the new entry, of the entries in the mental health area, because they can get to work.
Yeah, but
And
to a
that's what
certain
you
extent,
need.
though, this isn't about the welfare bill. This is about a sort of societal change, almost like a moral case, a moral crusade, about the moral duty, if you can work to pay for yourself and to contribute for others. And you'd have thought that a bunch of lefty Labour MPs would understand that. You thought they might have read a bit of Marx along the way when they were doing their sociology degrees, and they would have gone, from each according to their ability, to each according to their need. But now we're saying everyone's got a need, and I'm assuming they think that, well, we'll just put the taxes upon those rich people over there to pay for it, because we're looking at a welfare reform bill that was going to only save 5 billion quid anyway, which doesn't touch the size. It was going to go up by billions, but just not go up by quite as much. Another 2.5 billion of that has been cut. This is small change in terms of government expenditure. This is unaffordable where we are currently in terms of our government finances, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's completely unaffordable. And of course, they will now be down by 3 billion, even on their original forecast, which means in the autumn statement, de minimis, she will have to raise taxes by 3 billion, which means, yet again, people who are actually in work will bear the brunt of the failure on this. And it shouldn't be like this. We published a paper about this saying, if you targeted those groups, now there's a one positive bit to come through. When I brought UC in,
Universal
tax credits were outside and sickness benefit was outside. And I couldn't persuade the government at that stage to pay the money to get them in. But they're now coming in, certainly sickness benefit. This will make a huge difference to claimants because they will be seen by somebody for the first time whose purpose in life is to get them into work. Right. And that's the big difference from languishing on a benefit nobody ever sees you on.
And that's the thing, people haven't been assessed. Since 2020, basically, if you have any check at all, it's a phone call or a Zoom, no one meets you in person. Reassessments are only maximum, the minimum time you're going to wait is 3 years. So people are just people are languishing for years, and then by then you're just settled into that life, aren't you? Yeah. And of course, people know the system. You can look on TikTok and see what words you have to say to get these benefits.
That's the other bit.
How do we change all of that, though?
Well, as I said, they're coming on now to universal credit, which means everybody gets to see an individual regularly who will look at their condition, see what they can do, and help them try to get into work. Because all the medical profession will tell you, work is a health treatment for people with depression and anxiety. If you're at home, it gets worse. If you go to work, there's a chance you make friends, you change your life, all of that helps your mental state.
Routine, structure, purpose, self-respect.
All of that. Work is critical. But the second thing, I just want to say one thing, because you just raised this. One of the big problems we face now, which really started back around about 2012, really, I suppose, was the massive increase now in the use of social media when you get into the whole position about how people communicate. And on social media, you can find literally any condition will meet you in your state right now that you'll be able to claim is your condition. Yeah. And people play kind of condition bingo quite often, where they talk about, well, actually, I'm suffering from this, that, the other, and that. And somebody says, well, no, I've got something else as well. There's a sort of genuine sense that somehow you have to have a term for how you feel. I'm not denigrating those who genuinely have serious problems. That's a different matter altogether. I'm talking about the culture that has come about, that everybody talks about their feelings and how bad they are.
And gets a label.
There tends to be a spiral coming down where everybody reaches a common denominator of saying that life's impossible. What we have to do is shift that mental attitude and try and get people to understand you can change your life.
Absolutely. Genuinely, the medicalising of normal human emotion I find absolutely terrifying. I really do. But look, in terms of these Labour rebels, they all think they're the nice people. I didn't come into politics to vote for benefit cuts. They say they're worried that even the benefit concessions they've won from Liz Kendall, the Work and Pension Secretary, they're saying that will create a two-tier system because the new people be affected by it, but not the existing people, which is utterly bizarre, since that's a result of them demanding that concession. But what do you make in terms of politically, as someone who's been at the top end of politics, what do you make of politically the damage to Keir Starmer, to his authority, the fact this is another major U-turn, winter fuel, the rape gangs public inquiry, now disability benefits, and he's still can't be guaranteed he's going to get this through without a major rebellion when he's got a working majority of 156 MPs?
And you're only a year into the government, which is the other critical issue. So there are 5 U-turns. Now, I think the public doesn't mind people U-turning in politics. We make a big issue about it, providing what they're U-turning to is the right way of doing something. But if it becomes a habit, then they begin to wonder whether or not you have any idea where you were meant to be going in the first place. So the odd U-turn, changing a policy, recognizing something doesn't work. But to have come in and have 5 significant U-turns since he's arrived really won't help him at all. And this rebellion, really, you never bright morning ever again for a leader who suffers a massive revolt like this. Yeah. Because people get licensed to revolt on everything at that point.
Absolutely.
And it gets very difficult to manage your party. So that's what's facing them down the road, I'm
Certainly
afraid.
See his authority withering away, can't we? Sir Iain Duncan, great to talk to you. Thank you very much, Steve, for joining us.